So in our security part, we are working on that the API part. What exactly those APIs are? Let me show you on the Okta tenant side. So in the API, we do have such kind of connectivity. We have to make sure the Okta is having such kind of thing and behaving like a server. So Okta is having like authorization server, which is supposed to be authorizing all of its token and granting the permission, whatever it is going to required by the client and the third party application. Okay. So the authorization server, it's a default one, which is our tenant name. Okay, so it will becoming that the issuer URI means whenever any such kind of client or third party application or requesting to get the information from that the server side. So Okta is supposed to creating such kind of server for those all those applications or connector which are supposed to working on the API part. So what exactly the authorization server? It will help us. It will help all of that user authenticity and providing them to get connect with that the Okta and whatever the information they are supposed to require after the authentication from that the resource server side, they can get it. Okay. So this will become the issuer URI. Okay. Or it will become our authorization server URI. Okay. Now the second thing it is token. So token, as I mentioned to you earlier, they we have the access token and the refresh tokens. Okay, so the tokens are majorly that the part of the thing. If a user, if an application of a client is accessing such kind of information, so firstly he just get back to the authorization server. So due to some grant types and all the things, the client responds or the browser responds to that the authorization server that I need such kind of information from your resource server end, or either the we required some authenticity to get approval from your end first, then we get an information from the rest of the things. So the authorization server on the behalf of the request of the client or any of the browser side or any of the application side, the authorization server will check the user's identity. Okay, on the basis of the user's identity, it will respond back in the form of token. Okay, so whatever the token it comes to us, like respond back to the client. So token it's having that all the information related to that person who is required to access such kind of folder or any kind of file or the private thing or the share file from the resource server. Okay, so token is that the API. Token is in the form of an API which is behaving like to give the approval for all the other activity which is supposed to be required. Okay, so now it is also a default token which is already been there, but we are supposed to create a new token and how it is supposed to be behaving and what exactly is it going to be taken care. I will show you. Okay, now we are creating a token. Let me create inside this thing so it's better to understand in the virtual machine. So the token is not only that the token, the API token is basically means that the access token, to an accessing for an accessing for such kind of activity which is going to be provided for that the client or the application after authenticity part. Okay, so that thing we are need to check over here. Okay, so here we are. Now we are supposed to create a token. So firstly, we need to give a token name. What exactly the token name it is used for tracking our API. So let's take a token. It's a demo token, or we can make it as a test API. Once we are creating this token, so it's saying that token created successfully. Please make a note. This token it will be only time. It will be the only time that you will be able to view it. After this, it will not be stored as a hash for your protection. So the token value which is coming over here, it is comes once in a while. Once in a while means once it is created, it will disappear. It will you need to save it somewhere on your notepad, or either you can put it down some in place, because once it is to be there, if I click on OK, got it, it will not be coming back, and I am not able to retrieve back, because these tokens are basically that the user's information or whatever the things which is comes inside the token. Okay, not the user information, whatever the things comes inside the token, that is the one time use. Okay, one time means use means it is not going to be publicly shared or publicly available in your tenant side, in your organization side, or not even in the Okta side, because token is the only thing which is supposed to be accessible by such kind of intruders or the hackers. Once they get this type of token value, they will reach out to your private area or the authorization server or the resource server side. So they will track down your information, whatever the information is stored in your organization or having in it. Okay, so that's why this token having a private thing. So you need to capture it, because it's going to be very crucial part. It's not coming back every time you are going to create a token. It will give you a different value. It is not going to give you that the same exact value. I'm going to store it over here. This is my test token. This is a token value. Okay, now you can see that thing. My token is created now. Test API token. Okay, and it has been created by super admin. Okay, so super admin having the authority to create that token, not the other person having the authority. Okay, every token comes with the created or the expiry date. Okay, it has been created on 23rd today, and it's going to be expire in 22. It's having the validity of 1 month. After 1 month, its validity is over. So you need to upgrade the token or increase that the expiry date, or either you need to create a different token for your purpose. But what we have to supposed to do in an action part, you can see. Okay, so this is the all the attributes. It has been created by super admin, expiry date, last usage, and there is a token rate limit. Token rate limit means how much 50% of each API rate limit. Every time this token has to be cross check or checking or maintaining the value or the rate or for the API part, it will go beyond that the 50%, or either you can increase the rate limit across the APIs. So across the API means whatever the API is supposed to be created or passing on with this help of this token, it is going with the rate limit of 50%. Either we can increase that thing. So whatever the APIs are be there, so it will cross check about all this token value and it will reflect back. So the API names,
Can you
yeah,
please tell me again this meaning of this?
okay.
Token rate limit?
I'll show you. The token rate limit basically means that it like whenever what we are supposed to do such kind of activity like user profile checking the user profile, the logs and the application checking, and you can say monitoring part or making the security, okay, and doing some MFA, login out, login in, okay, whatever the things we are going ahead or going to do in our tenant side or in our organization or working on the Okta side. So there are lots of APIs are supposed to be come across on this area. So this rate limit, token rate limit tells that at what percentage it is supposed to work beyond for that particularly APIs or the token. Okay, so we are supposed to giving them the 50%. 50% means like it is like the power. Okay, it is like a power which we are supposed to give that the API rate limit, like 50% it will having the half of his limit he can check or it will work. Okay, if you make it increase that part, so like in our case not over here, like in organization there are lots of user are provisioning, okay, with the help of such kind of connectors or provisioning methods or other uh, application integration side, or even the user is created or provision in that Okta, his profile is created and other things are supposed to be done. Okay, so the in that case, what API
So,
will check?
if we conclude this also, it means like for the particular API, like how many times you can request, right?
Yes, for the API, yes. Many how many times you are supposed to be request that the particular API for a, like right now we created a test, okay, but in an organization, every you can say every scenario or every test case there is supposed to be an API who is working in behind of this all the scenarios. Okay, so that is the thing where the 50% or you can make it 75 or 100%. So it will check on your organizational behavior, how it is supposed to be done, how much time it will supposed to be reflecting or working on the particularly scenario or the test case.
So once, like for example, if we set this as 50%, so will it
Mhm.
work like in that way, like 50 requests per minute, or like how does it going to work?
Yes, it is supposed to the rate limit is supposed to be the 50% means basically on a particularly time frame in the milliseconds or the seconds time frame. Okay, it will you can say how it is, it will run, or you can say it will check or verifies all the things on those areas. So that is supposed to be like suggested by the Okta, it's 50%. Okay. So you can see in that the API names like verify, apps, user ID, authentication, SSO, SAML. So all of are 50%. These are the APIs. Okay, like API names are with there. Email verify. Whether the emails are supposed to be verified, it will it will verifying on the rate limit per minute for 50%. Okay, request per minute it will checking for the 50%. Okay, if we increase that thing 100%, so it will also making, you can say like increasing the frequency. Okay, that is the right word. That increasing the frequency or the bandwidth on checking or verifying that kind of activity. So the log checking, SAML authentication checking, user ID, groups authorization. So these all the things it is to be taken care by the API part. Okay, so that it is supposed to be the frequency, at what frequent rate the request is coming to the Okta per minute, and what is supposed to be the API rate limit on it. Okay, or either on the edit side you can increase or decrease that the rate limit. So this is a little bit the administrative part, but we have to work on those other areas. Okay, so this is our default API and sorry token, and this is our created one. So where exactly this token value is supposed to be work, I'll show you that area in, and where exactly it will. how it is supposed to be behaving or working in that the postman and on the Okta operational area. Okay, the right word is Okta operational areas where exactly is supposed to be work the API. Okay, so let me open that our Postman. So this is our Postman API platform. So basically, Postman is a software who is cross-checking or working only for the API part. Okay. So firstly, what we are supposed to do, we can create an account in Postman. Okay. Right now, I am logging with my one of the account. Okay. So this is my account. This is my account. Okay. So I log in with my account right now, and after logging in that the
Are we
account of
supposed to
the
create a
postman.
postman account as well?
Yes,
Are we
let
supposed to
me
have
show you.
one?
If you have that thing, that is fine. You are not supposed to be create a new one. If you have it, that is fine. So this
Is
is the
this something
postman
that
page.
we're going to
Okay.
be doing as Okta admin? Like have a postman account, or in the organization they may use something else, like another app.
Huh. So if you having that the account as per like your admin account for use for the postman, that is also fine. If you have that thing, that is also fine. Generally, the thing it is that in the organization they will give you the access of Postman also to checking on that the API or work on the API part. Okay, it's a open source software API Postman API part. Okay, it is generally used for that the developer to design and work on that the API part. Okay, I'll show you the method where exactly the things are be there. To log in on clicking on the Postman API platform. If you know that thing, that is also fine. So you entered after checking you are entering your credential over there. You are inside in that the postman dashboard area. Okay. So there are supposed to be two things. Once you come inside that thing, so firstly you need to create your workspace. Okay. You need to create your workspace. Workspace basically means a area where exactly you are supposed to work. It's like a Word document having lots of templates are be there. So you need to choose the blank template once you are going to work a new things inside it. So it's same here, same similarly over here in the Postman. Every time, or like you can use your workspace area where exactly you wanted to do some testing, development, and other kind of activity. You can create your own workspace. Like even Postman give us a default one, my workspace something. So I created one workspace which is my workspace name something. Okay. If I wanted to create something, you need to click over there, create workspace. If you wanted to work on your existing workspace, so you can click on these. Okay, these are the existing one workspace. If I am doing such kind of activity which is pending something or which has already been done, or I wanted to extend some type of activity over there in the previous workspace, so I am going with the existing one workspace. If I am doing such kind of activity which is supposed to be new or it is going to be lengthy in future, so I'll create a new workspace. So once clicking the workspace, so that is a blank workspace which is coming over here. Okay, so I need to click on next. Now he is telling that please give me the workspace name. Okay, so I am giving you test workspace. Okay, now I am going to create it. Okay, so the name is coming over here, test workspace for API. Correct. Once it is to be done, now the second thing is environment. We need to work on our environment part. On which environment we are supposed to work. There is collection part and there is environment part. Now we click on the environment part. So now there is two things. The environment you are supposed to be create a new environment. Okay, like this way. Okay, it's giving the new environment, or either you can edit it. Okay, so this is the new environment which is comes under in the test workspace for API. So the environment over here, it's come over with, okay. So the environment part comes with the variable type, initial value, and the current value. Type, I already told you, this is a data type, either the integer, date, format, whatever the type it is supposed to be. It is comes over here. Okay. And there is one more thing in the Postman, which is collection. Collections are generally the things which is comes in the way like how we are going to retrieve the data, putting the data, or fetching the data. Okay, so that is comes under in the collection part. Like over here, if we wanted to create a new collection, we can go with the black collection side. Or if we are already having such kind of things with us like Okta collections and all the things, we can add all the collections over here in the Postman area. So it is by default it is coming, and we can get those things from the developer page from the Okta side. I'll show you. Okay, so this is the page import Postman collection, which is given by the it is the website name is developer.okta.com. Document, under document there is references and the Postman collections. So you can see we have lots of importing the Postman collection, which is going to be work on that the Okta API collections for the Postman in the listing part. If we wanted to work on the activity of administrator role, we can add this collection. If we wanted to work on the application part, we can add this collection. If we wanted to work on authentication activity, we can add this thing. Authenticator, add this thing. Branding, captcha, everything. So it is lots of, you can see lots of collections are already been available for us for making it out for testing purpose, or not only the testing purpose, but if we wanted to retrieve such kind of data from the API part, or with the help of API, or adding such kind of activity or work in that the Okta dashboard with the help of API, we can do that type of activity over with the help of this source of this collections. Okay, like if I'm going to show you, like there is one more collection. Lots of guys are supposed to add all those collections. That is also fine. If you have some limited amount of work or such kind of things you wanted to work, so you can add that kind of. Like if I'm taking that user, I'm taking only that the user collection. Okay, let me take one more thing. Taking the group side also. Okay, so you can see in the Postman, it will directly these collections are being added on my workspace area on my created one thing. So it is saying that these collection which I am getting it from that the Okta side, which workspace I wanted to import it. So let me import on test workspace for API. Right? Similarly, and you can see in the below screen imported this collection has been imported successfully. Now for the group part. So the names which is coming over here as for the workspace file. Like if I have some pending things on my previous one workspace and why I want to do such kind of activity or collection are supposed to be imported on previous workspace, so I can choose that thing. If it is not going to be required, I can import on the new. Okay, okay, fine. Now you can see that thing in the collection part, all of the collections are comes over here. Okay, okay. Let me show you one by one. So once we created the users activity API part, so it was this collection is telling us like whether you are supposed to creating the user, you can go with that type of activity. If you wanted to credential operations type of activity, you can go with that thing. Okay. So each and every folder or each and everything comes with such kind of commands. Like APIs are working on our HTTP side, HTTPS side, on that our Exchange server side. Okay. So it will having such kind of commands. So commands, what commands are we there? We have commands get, put, post, delete. These are such kind of four commands through which we are supposed to create, update, or delete, or fetch the data. Okay, it's just like a CURD operation. Okay, CURD means CURD. C is for creating, U for updating, R for reading, or D for deleting the data. Okay. Similarly, this card has to be put on over in this form of command get. Whether we are supposed to getting the information from the user perspective, or if we wanted to get an information, retrieve the information, or so it means that we are reading the information. So that command is called the reading one. Put. Whether we are supposed to use the put command, so generally it means whether we are supposed to creating something in some area. Now the post, post and delete. So these commands are supposed to be used accordingly. We wanted to do some operational work or activity with the help of an API. Okay, okay. Let me take a little bit easier for you guys. Okay, okay. So over here, this is the list users. Now we have in the Okta we have lots of users are with it. Okay. Now how these users are supposed to be we can check or verified with the help of that the Okta. So we can list it out with the help of these kind of updated commands. So this is a get command. Get command is generally to fetching out the data or reading out that data. Okay. So if we wanted to read out the list of users which are be there in our Okta tenant, we can work on with the help of list user. If I click over here, let me click. Okay. Okay. So once I click over here, it is showing me such kind of thing. It is showing me that these kind of things. Params, auth, header, body, script, test and setting. So params is the parameters. What type of parameters we are supposed to be entering or fetching out the details. It will give us that the limit of 25. So it means that 25 user I can fetch it out. Okay. Auth. Auth basically means that inheriting auth from the parent side. Inherit auth from parent side, whatever the credentials or whatever the command we are supposed to be there, it will fetching out on the behalf of the thing. The authorization header will be automatically generated when you send the request. Okay. Now it is come the header part. So header part is saying that it will accept it, content type what is, and the authorization with the API key. Now you can see here are two things which we required over here. One thing we required is the URL. URL basically means our tenant URL. Where from we get this information in the Postman collection site. So we required such kind of URL. So what is our URL? Our URL is this. This is our URL. So where is the URL? This is our URL. Now we are supposed to add the variable in our URL file. We are setting the variable. We have set the URL. The user limit is supposed to be 21. Now it's required the API part. So where is our API key? I already added or stored somewhere in my notepad. So if I forget to put it down over here, so where I get this API, then I need to create a new token for that thing. So that's why I stored in the notepad. Now I'm going to add the value for API key. So I added the value for API key. So now both the things are going to be set. I put it down my tenant value or the URL, or I put it down that the API key. So why it is supposed to be required? Only two things. First thing is going to be required if we are fetching out the list of user. So where exactly we have to touch it down? What is the endpoint for that thing? So that is our Okta tenant URL. Okay, that is the first thing. Now second thing is the authorization part. On which basis we can authorize to go or entered in our tenant. So where exactly how we can go inside that thing? We can go only with the help of such kind of tokens. Okay, so that's why I'm saying that API tokens are very crucial or the private things which is supposed to be helpful to get the information on any of the tenant side. That's why that the rest of the world of the hackers in the dark side or the Tor website side, these hackers are generally looking ahead for these kind of tokens. They are making that type of tokens. Once any of that type of random token is going to be work for them to access any of that the organizational data or transaction, they will fetch it out with the help of that. Okay, so that's why the two things are supposed to be there and required. Okay, now the next thing it is supposed to be there. We have our workspace over here. Now we have already set a environment. We create our environment. So we need to make our environment from no environment to the new environment because we have the new environment. We created the new environment in our environment page. Now we are supposed to send this command. Let's see what will happen. So you can see that once I click on send, it will reflect back the 200. 200 OK generally means that status, status of an API, which is successful. Okay, if it is I am getting 201, 400, 404. So it means that the status is invalid or having such issue. Okay. So it means that your API is not supposed to work on that unsuccessful attempt or such kind of other activity. So 200 OK means that it is the standard response for successful HTTP request. Our request, which we are passing on with the help of from the postman to our tenant in the Okta, it will connect successfully. It will responding back to us in a successful manner. Okay, in the GET request, the response will contain an entitle corresponding to the request resources. In POST request, the response will contain the entitlement describing for content containing the result of an action. So this kind of things we have already seen. How many minutes it will taking milliseconds it will take 1434 millisecond to get the response. And what the size of our listing out this detail is 2.13 KB. Okay, so these all the things which is taken
So
care by our API
what do
team.
we do in a
Yeah.
situation where, so is it standard 200 okay? And when is not 200 okay, how do we troubleshoot it if we have any issues?
I'll show you.
Okay.
Like, let me see. Let me go with the other environment. No environment. Okay. The environment is not fine. Okay. Now I'm going to get back this send command again. Okay, we already tested, that's why it's not taking. Okay, I'll show you when it is not supposed to be done, whether our API is not be there in a proper manner. Okay, one supposed to be like it's two, it's not is one. Okay, you see 401. 401 basically means unauthorized able accesses part. Okay, so it's saying that somewhere your authentication or the authorization is not supportable. Your authentication of that the API, which means you are checking with that the API is not going to authorize for your tenant part. So it's showing me such kind of error 401. Okay, so again 401, 403, 404, these all the things are the authentication failure errors. Okay, your token is not supported. Somehow your URL is not supported. Okay, if I am going back and I am doing such kind of thing again too, and I'm tenant value, I'm not going to do this thing. I'm going to 8. Now I'm going to send it back. Now it's saying again 401 unauthorization. So what is saying in the error part? It is saying invalid token provided. Invalid token provided means for this tenant, this token value is not supportable. Okay. So these kind of error ID, error link, error code, error summary has to be coming up over here if such kind of activity is not valid. Okay, so our task it is to be there to listing out that the users with the help of our API from our Okta tenant. So let's go back. Now everything in the API come in the JSON format. As I mentioned to you, there are two things. API also are always we work on REST or the SOAP. Okay, and the format of our APIs are comes over in the JSON format. Like JSON is basically that JavaScript pages, or sorry, JavaScript, so like a format which is supposed to be work on that the HTTP or the REST API part. Okay, so these thing you can see ID, status, created, activated, status change, last login, last update, password change. So what all these things, these all the things related to the user, whatever the user which we are having, this is the first user. His user is not supposed to be that coming with the user. Let me show you how we are supposed to validate that part. APIs are always comes in the format of JSON. It is not showing me that the direct name. Okay, so all the accounts are deactivated. Why these accounts are deactivated? Will anybody tell at me know? Why these accounts are deactivated? Because if you know, few days back we created one of the automation, okay, in the life cycle management. If users are not supposed to be activating or working on the Okta platform within 7 days, their account are supposed to be deactivated. So that automation works over here. Their accounts are supposed to be deactivated. Why? Because we did some activity on this workflow automation part over here. We created test automation or test do something. Okay, what inside that thing? Over here, this. For every group on everyone. The password expire in Okta within 3 days, or user account has changed to be in the suspended mode. And what would be the next one in the test 2? This one. If user inactive in Okta for 15 days, 15 days, user inactive in Okta. It means that if a user is not coming back to Okta or doing any or not going to do any kind of activity in an Okta for within the 15 days, his account is supposed to be deactivated. That's why our accounts, all of the user account right now is deactivated. Okay, coming back to our scenario of the API people. Let's go with this semi state. So this is the user profile, complete user profile, and where we have to find the user, oh sorry, yes, user customer ID or user ID. So this is the user ID of this user. Okay, now I copy it. Now I show you over here 697. Let me check over this thing. Yes, so this is one of that user. Semi state. This user profile is user, oh sorry, ID. This means that ID means customer ID or the person ID. So user is defined in that the API with this ID part, not the username part. So 697 is the Sinmi set. His account or not. It is not her account. It is 97 is something.
Okay,
He is
so there is one
697.
more user.
Yes, wait. Okay, got it. 3Z697. Actually, his account is activated, so it means that in both of their account is only activated. So yes, okay, fine. The last user is that. The administrator account is having that customer. Okay, yes, this is the user. 3Z697. Okay, so this is the result. 3Z697 and his account is activated or his status is active. When his account is created, is mentioning the date and time, and activation date is coming over here. And when his status is changed and the last login, everything else has to be comes over here in his ID. Okay. Now the type with the ID, with the profile. Now you can see the result. What is the user profile stating us with the attribute? The profile first name is oneness, last name is cloud. So whatever his login ID, it is comes over here. The email part and the credential part is not coming over here. The type is Okta. Okay. So this is the other links. Other links means whether the user belongs to this tenant. It is comes over here. Okay. Similarly, for the other user, this is the other user which is already been activated in status. So that user is the last user, I think. I think Mark Henry, because he is the only activated person. Two of the users are only activated. Yes, Mark Henry. Okay. So his ID is S697. S697. His account is also. So we can see his ID profile Mark Henry. Okay. So those value which are not being provided in the Okta, that is comes over here in the null format. Means null. Null means no data available. Okay. His profile is coming from Active Directory. It is saying over. So everything we can test it and we can check, or either we can do some modification over here. Okay. So it's listing out only those users which are activated. It's not saying us those users which are deactivated. Okay. So that commands are supposed to be work, or we can do this kind of activity on the operationals area, majorly on the operationals area. Okay. Like user side over here, these kind of thing, list user with the search part,
If
list
you're
user
sharing
with
your
the
screen,
update and
we can see your screen if you're sharing it.
screen is not shared. Oh, now it is visible.
Um,
Now
that
is
were
it
you sharing?
visible?
Yes, yes, it's visible now. Yes.
Okay. So it means that over here we can see that the user's ID, with the help of user ID we can list it out the things, and we can get the status of that the particular user with the help of this API key. Okay. So API key will help us out to fetch out the details, not even the fetch out the details, whether we wanted to do some kind of activity of the creation side, modification side, we can do that type of activity with the help of the API's key values, because API key or the tokens are the only thing through which we can connect to our tenant. Okay, the tenant means the URL, and how these things are supposed to be checked or do such kind of things in the Postman. The Postman will help us out to work over on these kind of activities which are supposed to be there. Okay, there are lots of other activities are be there. Okay, in the lifecycle operations area, right, for activating user, for deactivated user, for unlock user. So you can see the post method is something which we are supposed to updating, okay, or which we are supposed to creating. So the post method is going to do this thing, the post command, and the get command is for the fetching types of activity. Similarly, post, put, or like get or delete, these four commands are be there in the API side, majorly on this in the API side, only four commands are be there. Okay. Similarly, on the group side, like whether we are supposed to add a group, so we can put it down to post, add group, such kind of things. Okay. So not only you can fetch it out, you can add it out, such kind of activity over here. Okay. Let me do one thing. Let me test one more thing for the group part. Add for adding the group. Let me add the URL, the tenant value. Okay, in the API part, we do have the API key. Okay, let me add body. What comes in the body? This is something it just comes in the body part. If you wanted to add a group name, so that the group name is West Coast user. Okay, let me add the group name. I just wanted to do API. Okay, so I name it that the group name is the API test group, and it's used for adding group with the API testing. Let me check it out. It's going to work or not. It's saying 200 OK. Status is successful. So what it's saying? The group ID. This is the not the user ID. This is the group ID. If you are going or working in the group, so that will come the group ID. If you are working on the user side, that will the user ID. So when it is created on date and that everything is comes over here. Object class is the user group and the type is it is comes under that the Okta group. And profile, the name of the group name is API test group and rest of the description part over here. Okay, so image is coming, large is coming, and everything, the user, application, everything. If a group is assigned to the particularly application, okay, or the application is assigning to the group, so that is comes over through this link. You can check over this link. Or one more thing, if a user is assigned to the particularly group, you can click on that link. It will directly redirect to the particularly page of where exactly it is supposed to be there. Now, if we added that thing, is it available over here or not? Let's see. Because we are working on the API part, so everything we can do with the help of API. Now we can test on the group. So you can see that the group is created with the help of API. You see, API test group. It's used for adding groups with the API testing. Okay. So this kind of activity we are supposed to work with the API, not only to fetching the data, we can get and updating the data and listing out the data with the help of such kind of groups. Okay. So these things, these are the totally the collections. Under the collection, such kind of operations which is supposed to be taken care or done by that the administrator side. So either the administrator go and do such kind of activity with the help of Okta dashboard, that is fine. If such kind of activity which is supposed to be only done by the help of API, so he has supposed to do this activity with the help of Postman and do or create such kind of workspace, the environment, and test it over all of the things. Okay, so these are the such kind of the scenario. Yeah, yeah, go ahead.
Can you share the link of how we can create our Postman account? And then the second thing I wanted to say is, can we also use Postman to create, instead of using the virtual machine to create the groups and the users and move it into Okta, can we use Postman to create the users and the groups and also move it into Okta? Is this something we can use apart from just the APIs?
Yes, not the APIs. Basically, that means I am uh, showing you that the things where exactly and how the API is very much useful for to making out that kind of activities. Where in that the postman is just a you can say an IDE and the environment or the platform where you tested over or work on your API. Okay, there are lots of other tools are we there or the softwares like Spring Boot. It is one of them. Postman is one of them. Okay, where we can do such kind of operational work or some administrator or testing purpose we can do such kind of things in that the Postman. Okay, so on the second note, it is to the link part and all. I will give you that link. These are the collection which is supposed to be totally taken care by the Okta for the postman, only for the postman, not for other things. That link is developer.okta.com. I'll just